The GIBS Center for Leadership and Dialogue has recently entered into a partnership with the Motlana Foundation. Today in studio, we've got Dr. Mashadi Motlana, who's a director of the foundation, to tell us more. Dr. Mashadi, welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Motlana does not need an introduction to most people, but we'd like for you to share your thoughts about your father.
It's a tall order. I remember when we started the foundation, we took a great deal of time trying to decide on which areas to focus on, because my father was indeed a man of many talents. He had, in fact, 3 careers. One first as a doctor, a community doctor, one of 2 doctors in Soweto, serving 1.5 million people at the time, a very impoverished community, and became very deeply entrenched in community issues and was quite involved in self-help groups and NGOs from the beginning.
And of course, your dad was an activist as well, and if I'm correct, he was imprisoned and in trial.
Yes, at several times. His political career started at Fort Hare University, where he was one of the founding members of the ANC Youth League. He went on to be accused number 8 in the Defiance campaign, and he had periods of being banned. During his 4th year at medical school, he had to have special permission to attend his graduation ceremony. And no surprise, when he wanted to become a specialist at Baragwanath Hospital, he was unable to because he led a strike. He complained that it was unfair that black doctors earned less than white nursing sisters. In the 70s, he was the de facto spokesperson for the struggle when the ANC was banned and all the leaders were in exile or in Robben Island, and he led the Committee of 10. His 3rd career was in business. Right from the beginning, he always held firmly the view that political freedom meant nothing without economic freedom. And as early as the 70s, he established the first black medical aid, Sizwe. He went on in the 80s to establish the first black privately owned hospital. And in 1993, the biggest BE transaction at the time was a deal with Sanlam, where shares were bought from Metropolitan Life.
Of course, you don't mention that your father was at one time physician to the late Nelson Mandela.
Yes, well, he was doctor to many, along with the Mandela families, to the Tutus, and to many poor Sowetans who came often without having the means to pay. He would often treat them for free. And I think one of the most remarkable things he did in the 70s was also to treat, under the threat of arrest, those students that were shot at by the Boers at the time during the 70s protests, undercover in his surgery, where he also held his covert meetings for the Committee of 10.
Certainly a great legacy. You can tell us about the foundation itself. Why was it established, and what was it established to do?
I first of all have to say that my father was a very humble man. In fact, I'm quite sure that if he had it his way, there would not be a foundation in his name. But we thought to protect his name, and after his passing, a number of people had wanted to establish various organizations and rename hospitals after his name. And we thought that whatever we did in his name must represent his legacy and build on the foundation he established. And why I mention the fact that he was very humble, his style of leadership, I like to call it a servant-style leadership, where he led by allowing others to participate. He celebrated the achievements of others. He encouraged others. Our home was always full of those young and emerging entrepreneurs who had all kinds of schemes. He made time for everybody. He paid for fees out of his own pocket, often not asking for any recognition. And so we wanted to do work in his name that was meaningful, that was about action, and we found partners at GIBS that want to make meaningful changes in our society, that are about an active citizenship, about getting South Africans to take charge of their lives, to help themselves. My father was very firm, again, about certain things, and one of them was not to have a begging bowl syndrome. He often complained that Africa was dependent on donor aid and that we had to shift and create jobs. He used to complain in apartheid South Africa that your average black child was educated through Bantu education to look for work. So we were wanting a foundation that would inspire South Africans to become more than they are, to reach for their stars, to be able to be self-reliant, to establish their own businesses, to renew that sense of entrepreneurship that I think in our disenfranchised state during apartheid and the legacy with which we live currently, we've somehow lost, to encourage South Africans to do for themselves. And I think there's a real marriage in what GIBS at the Center for Leadership and Dialogue is doing with programs that focus on the youth, on women, on entrepreneurship, and really a social dialogue that speaks to our context, that wants to really have a positive social impact.
Mashadi, if you can tell us about your role specifically in the foundation, as well as the role of the broader Motlana family.
My role specifically has really been to make sure that this foundation takes off. This is our first venture. There are a number of areas in which we wish to be involved. So we've identified 4 focus areas, those being leadership, entrepreneurship, health, and education. GIBS, in one way, ticks off many boxes for us. We're able to tick off the entrepreneurship, leadership, and education boxes. We're still looking at health. My father was a stickler for a healthy diet. He exercised every day. He was teetotaler. And he was very concerned about what the government has only recently begun to recognize, that in fact South Africa is facing a double epidemic, that of HIV/AIDS and that of, which are communicable diseases, and that of non-communicable diseases such as preventable lifestyle diseases, hypertension, cholesterol, and obesity. South Africa ranks number 3 in terms of obesity, and that's something that even concerned him in the 70s. So one of the programs we'd like to run is these silent diseases that are killers in our society: hypertension, cholesterol, and run programs in that area. We're also exploring various partnerships with international institutions where we're looking at funding scholarships, but this is all work underway and in progress.
From the side of the foundation, what is the key outcomes that you hope to achieve through this partnership?
Well, what's very important for us is that we choose programs that are sustainable and that are about action. And our foundation thought that linking with an institution with as good a reputation as GIBS, I've interacted with the staff at the Center for Leadership and Dialogue and found that they're passionate and committed, and there's a vision to grow what they're currently doing, and we see that our partnership will grow and develop. Our current commitment is for 3 years, but we're seeing this as a long-term partnership going forward.
On that note, Mashadi, thank you for your time, and we wish you all the best with the foundation and your partnership with GIBS.
Thank you very much.